Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Chariton, Status Coup, Friday. It is March 17th, the year 2022. Quite the day. Quite the day. And a lot to get to. And we're going to be taking your phone calls very soon. We haven't done a call show in a while. So looking forward to taking your phone calls on whatever you want. I just put a couple topics in the headline, but the world is your oyster. So I'll answer your calls on just about anything. Full disclosure, I am under the weather, not feeling great. So I will go for as long as my immune system can take it. Well, let me wait till we get a few more viewers so I could share what I did right before this live stream. I wonder if any of you notice visually what I did right before this live stream, which horrified my wife. So we'll see who in the chat can spot what I did. I think somebody will figure it out real quick. But a lot to get to. Lewis has been on the ground for a second time in East Palestine, Ohio this week. He's doing great reporting on the ground. We have a couple things we're working on behind the scenes that I can't get into at the moment, but some investigative things. So we might have something to break, some juicy stuff to break early next week. So stay tuned for that. We also have some more clips. Lewis did a bunch of interviews all week, but particularly last night, he did a bunch of them. So we will have that. I did shave my baby face. You're half right. But in addition to shaving my baby face, I came up with the brilliant idea to try and cut my own hair, which I did last time. I cut my own hair last time with scissors, and I did it somewhat decent. But today, about 20 minutes before I went live, I decided to use the new razor or like shaver to try and cut my hair. And let's just say it didn't go so well. So I think what we're going to do today, there you go. So that is the back of my head, me shaving. If we get, I'm going to go with 10 new members today. If we get 10 new signups for membership, I'm going to take my hat off so you could see this work of art that 100% is going to require me to have to go immediately to get my hair cut because it's my best friend's wedding next week, and I'm a groomsman, so I don't think I could show up with what it looks like right now under the hat. But yeah, total dad move. I tried to cut my own hair and didn't work out so well. It is not even. There are several blank spots. Several holes, shall we say. But hey, I'm totally willing to take off the hat and show you this devastating haircut of mine that I cut myself. But we got to get new member signups. And we got to get new member signups anyway to support the on-the-ground reporting. Like I said, Lewis has been on the ground, some bald spots, blank spots, same shit. Like I said, Lewis has been on the ground all week. From everything I could tell, the story of the East Palestine derailment / controlled burn has been abandoned by the mainstream media. Lewis, by his own account, is the only reporter there right now. On the ground, nationally, the only reporter. Whoa, keep the hat on, please. Okay. Lewis is the only reporter that's been on the ground. And it's really sad. Because residents are either calling Lewis or myself with updates to give us updates on what's going on from the governor, who's been calling certain residents that show up on our airwaves as a guest often, to the mayor, who's had conversations with some of the residents that we've had on. As of today, the mayor called one of those residents. There's some fuckery going on behind the scenes that residents are calling us, but they're calling us because CNN has abandoned them. MSNBC, shockingly, abandoned them. New York Times, Washington Post, the Associated Press, the Daily Beast, BuzzFeed, PBS, name your outlet. Not really covering it anymore. And I don't know, call me old fashioned, but I think when just 42 days ago, a train derails and a massive explosion comes days after that, making a whole town sick, I think that's still a major news story and should be one of the leading news stories. So we are going to play some of Lewis's new clips and also take your calls on this. Jordan is young. He will recover. Well, I'm also sick. Last night, I was sleeping in bed. I don't know. It was like 4 a.m. I woke up. I felt kind of warm and feverish. So I went into the other room because, who knows? I didn't know if I checked. I didn't have a fever, but I felt feverish. So I went into the other room because I didn't want to be around my 4-month-old child who's not vaccinated for COVID, just in case I had COVID. And then I couldn't fall back asleep. So I've basically been up since 4 a.m. I just feel, when you feel shitty, like you don't have a fever, but your nose is stuffy. You're just feeling crappy. I think it might just be because I haven't really been sleeping in 4 months, hence having a newborn, and it's kind of catching up to me, but I've been sneezing and blowing my nose for the last 2 days. I don't think it's COVID, but who knows? Thank you, D Nord, for getting us started with the $20 super chat. Keep those super chats coming. We really appreciate it. And I want, before we take the calls, and we are going to take your calls, Colin, if you could put up the number too, so people could write it down. The number to call in, I should know this, 719-782-8871. So it's right on the bottom of the screen. That's 719 status 1. Look at that. Looks so official. Maybe if you could just put it up like on the bottom of the screen so people don't have to scroll. I'm going to take your calls in a few minutes, but first I wanted to play some of the interview Lewis did. We published it a couple hours ago with a risk management engineer, kind of a jack of all trades. He's a chemistry expert, a combustion expert, was very involved with the manufacturing of industry gases. And this was really, really an illuminating interview. And it's shocking to me you don't hear from these kind of people in mainstream media. I'm not surprised why we don't hear from these people in mainstream media. But let's start the interview. This is somebody who lives, I think, a town over from East Palestine. His name's Aaron. Again, let me read his bio so you guys could tell he's kind of an official one. 10-year commission, National Board of Boiler and Pressure Vessel Inspector, 5 years experience as a millwright working in and around chemical plants and refineries, 15 years experience in fractionally distilling air, producing noble cryogenic liquid and gaseous air products, which include oxygen, nitrogen, blah, 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 blah. Senior risk engineering specialist with nearly 30 years of experience in manufacturing of industrial gases. So this guy knows his shit. And I wanted to react to some of it. Let's play the first few minutes.
Here in New Waterford with Aaron Bragg. Aaron has been leading a lot of the charge here, talking to a lot of folks. He's someone who kind of was an early person talking about dioxin, all sorts of things like that. So first off, thanks for taking the time to meet with us. We really appreciate it. If you want to just start off, kind of get us up to speed on how you got involved. Obviously, New Waterford is one town over from East Palestine, so folks here are definitely being affected, but in different ways than folks in East Palestine. Obviously, the surrounding communities are all having an impact here. But if you want to just kind of get everyone up to speed on how you got involved with all of this stuff going on right now.
Sure. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for everything that you're doing and this opportunity to speak today. So how I got involved was Friday night, the night of the derailment. My wife and I were out. We had a night out away from the kids. We came out from the event that we were in, and we started getting text messages that half of East Palestine is on fire. So we started looking into seeing what was going on. We found out our tenant had posted a Facebook Live from her front window that says, "Oh my God, the railroad tracks are on fire." So really started getting very, very concerned at that point. We were like, oh my gosh, that's happening right in front of our house. So reached out to the tenant, told her, get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
Like, look, I don't know what's going on, but whatever's happening is bad. So I have a very, like almost a 30-year chemical background. So I made industrial gases for 15 years. Currently, I am a senior risk engineering specialist for a Fortune 500 property and casualty carrier. So with that being said, I understand combustion very, very well. And there was a lot of black smoke coming off. So my concern from the get-go was what is coming off of that smoke. So again, tried to get my tenant out of there. She did not really realize the gravity of the situation because there was a lot of miscommunication that was going on at first. Nobody really knew. So with that being said, stayed the next several days through Saturday and Sunday, very, very concerned about all the products that were coming off. And the stories started not adding up very, very quickly. So again, to go back into my background, I filled rail cars. So way back when, about 25 years ago, I filled rail cars. I had to do my own inspection on that rail car before I could even put product in it. Once I filled that product up, I had to reach out to Chemtrek. So on any hazardous material container going down the highway, the rails, Chemtrek is involved with that. So before the train would even hook up and pull my rail car away, I had to turn that manifest in to Chemtrek. So I knew within 30 seconds of this derailment happening that Chemtrek had to have been notified. Chemtrek is supposed to, the whole existence of their being is to let the first responders know what they're coming to fight.
Okay.
Right? And we didn't know what was on that train for 7 days.
Right. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but from folks that I've talked to, it sounds like firefighters who first arrived on scene were pouring water on the fire and trying to put it out, but in a lot of cases, water probably wasn't the right answer here. And if they had maybe known what was involved in the fire, they would have been using foam sooner or had different PPE on and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, our first responders did an amazing job saving leak oil, saving Ceram Fab. If it wasn't for our first responders, those buildings wouldn't be here. So, yes, they needed to know. So the very next morning, we had a basketball game. One of the kids on my son's basketball team is a first responder from a local fire department. So there were 78 departments that came out. Including Ergon Oil Refinery sent their chemical team, and Shell sent their chemical team. But at 12:30 that night, or a little bit before, so to go back to the story of the first responder, I seen him in the morning. He was haggard, right? He looked, and I knew that he had been out there the night before. And a lot of the other parents were coming to me because they know my background, and they were like, Aaron, what the heck happened last night? But I talked to this gentleman, the fire department, the first responder, and he said, Aaron, at 12 o'clock, they pulled us off because the benzene levels were too high. He's the only one to this day that I've heard benzene. So if you remember, they said that they were benzene residue cars.
Right. So there had been like emptied out cars, is what was said.
Right. But so a residue car, most of your rail cars hold 30,000 gallons of product. Residue car can be 29,999 gallons. So as long as it's half of that car, it can be considered residue.
Wow.
Now, with that being said, the likelihood of there being 29,000 are slim to none because the end user is going to want to use most of that product. But how much was really in those cars? And to this day, we're still not hearing anything about benzene.
Wow. So this is a first responder on the scene, like a volunteer firefighter, it sounds like. And he was told that they were getting pulled away because the benzene levels were too high, meaning they were testing something with a device during that, but we haven't seen any of that information.
That's right. So, and it's one of the big questions that I keep asking all the time. So our fire department got $850,000 of new equipment because of contamination. What's the contamination?
Right.
Nobody has told us what that contamination was. So if they had to get all new equipment because of contamination, what the heck was going on in our town for those several days or even that day. The way that he described it was everybody responded. The EPA showed up, I believe, around 11 o'clock, or even the Norfolk Southern people with their analyzers, right? And then that's when they were like, oh gosh, unsafe, everybody get in your truck. So if you know, in that time.
So we'll play more of that, but I wanted to show that part because first time I've heard about benzene. Two, this is now 42 days after this happened. So if this is the first time we're hearing about benzene, first time we're hearing about that they were, I guess, measuring the benzene levels in real time after this derailment / controlled burn, what other chemicals or carcinogens or volatile organic compounds do we not know about? I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but we're hearing from Aaron, who, again, I mean, let me read his bio. He's not a janitor. Aaron, let me get it up real quick and smash that like button. We got 260 people watching. We need every single person watching to smash that like button so we could get this out. Aaron is a risk engineering specialist with nearly 30 years of experience in manufacturing of industrial gases, as well as expertise on combustion. He's 10-year commissioned on the National Board Boiler and Pressure Vessel, 5 years as a millwright in and around various chemical plants and refineries, and 15 years experience in fractionally distilling air. But he has been involved with manufacturing of industrial gases. And later on in this interview, he talks about that he has helped basically clear inspections to move product on railroads. So knows what he's talking about, is a jack of all trades. He's saying he was told by a first responder that they were pulled off at one point because the benzene levels were too high. Well, if the benzene levels were too high, were the residents told that? I know there's people from East Palestine who watch Status Coup. Lewis was telling me on the ground, people in the community kept coming up to him. They recognized him because we are one of the only news sources on period. TV, internet, doesn't matter. One of the only news sources still covering this major ongoing crisis. So I know people from East Palestine watch. Please let me know in the super chat. Have you heard about benzene on that train and benzene levels being high? The other thing he said in that part that stuck out to me was that the fire department, I know they got a donation from Norfolk Southern of $850,000 of new equipment because their equipment was contaminated. Good question. Contaminated with what? I mean, to Norfolk Southern, that's pennies, but almost $1 million in new equipment because of contamination. What was the equipment contaminated with? Let's continue, Colin.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to go hit the ground. I'm going to start knocking on doors, and that's what I did. At the Aaron Brockovich show, I ended up getting, I wasn't in the main event, so I was in the hall where nobody could hear. I'm sitting there talking to residents because I have a stack of paperwork, and everybody's like, who are you, and why do you got this stack of paperwork? So I stood up and said, well, so that would have been Thursday. Dr. Welton reached back out to us and said, Aaron, the concerns are too great there for us to wait. I want to come. He goes, you think you can get us 15 wells? And I said, Doc, I won't let you down. So I went to that meeting, stood up and said, introduced myself, said, look, we got Dr. Welton and his team from Purdue University that wants to come and sample 15 wells. Who in here needs their wells sampled? And people were literally crying to me because they're calling these numbers and nobody is responding. And it was like, oh my gosh, finally somebody can come do this. So we did. We ended up getting 6 wells down on 170, headed out towards Negley, who are the most highly susceptible and dangerous wells right now. And then behind me on North Pleasant, that was the way for the first couple of days that the chemical burn was going that way. And after the explosion, the same kind of thing. So I thought, I know all these people, but from knocking on their doors, that they had not had responses. And again, people, I'm in a hurry trying to get people, but they wanted me in their house. They wanted to hear from me because I also was educating these folks on, look, folks, you have to start keeping a diary every single day of every single thing that's happening to you, because these people were also saying headaches, nosebleeds, not feeling well. And I'm like, you got to start documenting that, because if it's not documented, the lawyers are going to tell you it never happened.
Right.
And it's an easy thing, document. If you feel good this day, don't lie about it. And it's the same thing that I've been pushing my resident. So my resident that's in that house does not want to leave. I cannot convince her to leave. And I understand, because she took her 2 years to find a house that she wanted. She finally found her house that she wanted. She was living in the basement with her daughter, helping out. She doesn't want to go back to that. And going back to what you're saying, I don't have anywhere to put her, right? I don't have, my other locations that I have are full. So it's not like I can kick them out to move her in. But Norfolk Southern's not helping. And a toxicologist, I have been calling. I have made 7 calls to toxicologists. I called the county, no response. I've called Norfolk Southern at every single event. I make them take my name and address down. They won't come because they know they're going to have to deem my property uninhabitable. They don't want to deal with it. So for me, I want my tenant out of there because of her health, right? I'm going to lose money. I'm never going to, that house is gone to me. And I don't care about that, because that is a monetary, material thing that can be made up. But her health and well-being, absolutely not. So through United for East Palestine, worked with Andy Walton and his team over Saturday and Sunday. What we found, and this is my pure speculation why everybody's getting sick down there, is all this aeration equipment. So they're sucking these poisons out of the creek, aerating it, revolatilizing it, and this is why you're smelling all this crap here and there. Now, how I can quantify that statement is I had a PID in my hand, because Dr. Welton and his team had one. So they're down by the creek sampling. I'm right behind the way station, so right behind downtown. There is they had an aerator there. I'm getting like a steady 170 parts per billion, sometimes a peak of like 200. And I say to Dr. Welton, look, I'm getting this down here. He's like, Aaron, that shouldn't be happening. So that was on Sunday. Dr. Welton made a lot of public statements, a lot of Twitter statements saying, hey, these creeks are highly contaminated. Everybody needs to get out of here. Why is there not signage? That very next Thursday, at the next town hall event, they had the EPA question and answer where no answers were given. But I had the opportunity again to go meet with the EPA folks. So I walk in the hall, and one of the EPA guys remembered me. He says, hey, dioxin guy. He says, did you hear that we're going to start testing for dioxins? I had a hat on. I tipped my hat. I said, thank you very much. If it wasn't for me, none of this stuff would have even started happening. Not just me, the rest of the residents.
Yeah, if there was no push for I like watched the change in like folks learning about dioxins to that becoming the main driver of conversation. If you all were not talking about dioxins in the way that you were, there's no way there'd be dioxin testing
and the media
now.
picking up.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
And the media has done an amazing job with that sense. At every news conference, they're drilling. They were the ones, really. The residents getting informed and then pushing forward on this is what made the difference. But what I was getting at was, I then talked to him about the aeration equipment. I said, look, why is there not signage down there? You're revolatilizing this stuff. He's like, how do you know this? I said, look, there was 170 parts per billion that was occurring. He goes, how do you know? I said, because I had a PID in my hand. He about shit his pants. He looked at me and I said, there is not an air analyzer anywhere. I said, I looked, why is that not there?
Right.
You know, you got residents and kids. That day that we were there, it was like a really nice day. Kids are literally playing
it's
right
in the
by
park.
this
The
equipment.
Roadhouse restaurant's right there. Yeah, there's houses, there's a park.
Yes.
I mean,
so the very next day, Purdue sent a follow-up team. Dr. Walton was giving a speech over in London, and he sent a follow-up team to come in. And one of the grad students said to me, he goes, Aaron, he goes, did you know that they moved the aerator out of that area and there were signs up? And I said, no kidding, the day before they were there.
Yep.
And again, why is it up to us to have to inform these people? The rest of these residents didn't have the opportunity like I did to work so closely with Dr. Welton and his team and have these PID analyzers in the hand, and or maybe not even understanding what they were looking at.
Right.
But again, like I told them, it's not up to me to prove to you that it's there. It's up to you to prove to us that it's not. And, you know, with the independent testing that even was done by Texas A&M, any independent test that we've had done to this point completely contradicts everything that we're being told.
Right.
And unfortunately, it takes money to get these teams here. And I believe that like the EPA and Norfolk Southern, they know this. Where are the Ohio universities? Where are the Ohio universities coming in there and doing this? This goes all back to the corruption of the way everything, the funding and everything is set up. The Ohio universities don't want to step over the governor's edicts that he's coming out with and stating, because it could then affect their funding.
Right.
So really, at the end of the day, what I hope folks do is go to United for East Palestine. United for East Palestine has got an amazing group of doctors and scientists right now working to do some high-end AI modeling and data collection using AI to try to determine how far the spread of this burn, all these symptoms and things that folks are having, what the doctors are saying. You know, I don't understand the whole AI. This lady, Devin, that was going, she was like amazing figuring this out. So we got some GoFundMes. Dr. Walton just came out and said that the days that he was here, he's about $25,000 in the hole himself doing this testing.
Right.
So we have some GoFundMes. We have some things out there. We need a little bit of help to get this third-party advice that we really need here.
For sure. And we'll
that was a lot of great information. I'm going to get to it. Welcome new Status Coup member Tia just signed up. Awesome, Tia. Welcome new Status Coup member Do just signed up. Love it. So those are two new members. Remember at the beginning of this live stream, Colin, if you could show the image. Before the live stream, I made the absurdly stupid decision to try and shave my own head. That's the back. So if we get 10 new members, so we're 8 members away, I will take off my hat to show you the destruction that I have left under this hat. So yeah, this is a total dad move. I decided to try and cut my own hair. It might look okay here, but once you see what I did to myself under the hat, you might disagree. But more importantly, you should sign up as a new member to support on the ground independent journalism. Lewis is doing a great job in East Palestine, but if you want us to continue on the ground in East Palestine and elsewhere, I'm trying to go back to Flint next month for the 9-year anniversary on that ongoing, keyword ongoing crisis. Flint, 9 years later, media long abandoned Flint. We have not. We need funding. We need money to do that. So if there's a whole lot of outlets out there that beg you for money and then they just sit in a studio and bloviate about bullshit, we're actually on the ground doing investigative reporting and human interest journalism. So we'll keep shouting you out. The more people that sign up, you can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. A couple things he said that stood out. Number one, 7 phone calls he has made 7 phone calls to toxicologists. Shocker, no response. Norfolk Southern will not return his calls. Why? Because they know his house will be deemed uninhabitable. Number 3, and they don't want to pay for that because his house is dangerous and contaminated. Number 3, kudos to him, one of the few landlords in America that is willing to take a loss financially for his tenant because they know it's not safe health-wise for their tenant to be in the home. You heard him say the money can be made back. His tenant's health cannot be returned to good health. So kudos to him for actually caring about his tenant's health. Other things he said, when he says that he had a PID, which is a photo ionization detector. So a PID, which is a photo ionization detector, and it got such a high reading that the EPA official in front of him shit his pants. Why is it that regular, yes, Aaron has expertise. He's got expertise in, manufacturing industrial gases, combustion, a little bit of chemistry. He's a bit of a jack of all trades. But why is it that Aaron and outside independent people with universities are out there with the right equipment, finding high levels of contaminants, yet the EPA, Norfolk Southern is not? What's going on here? I've told you over and over again, you cannot find what you're not looking for. And unless I'm missing something, and Lewis will have more on this, it sounds to me that the EPA, Norfolk Southern, obviously, Norfolk Southern should not be involved with testing anything. Their only role should be taking a verbal pummeling, and their only role should be taking in the receipts and reimbursing residents for all of their losses, and frankly, paying them more for their damages. Oh, there's Lewis.
Oh,
can you hear me?
That was quick. I can hear you.
Am I? You're at the airport, correct?
I am at the airport. Yep.
So what am I missing? Am I getting this right in terms of what Aaron is saying? Because it sounds to me, yes, Aaron has expertise in a bunch of different ranges, but him as well as the outside testers from Purdue University and others, they're using, it seems, the right equipment, and they are looking for, it seems, the right things, including dioxins, and they're finding stuff that the EPA is not.
Right. So at least from what I understand, the folks that they've worked with have found dioxins in the creeks and that sort of thing. The PID.
As a reminder to the audience, dioxins, basically the EPA had to be shamed into testing for them because the EPA said we don't need to test for them. And dioxins are very dangerous. There's about 74 different types, and they're cancer causing, and they could have a whole host of other issues, including reproductive issues, cancer, etc.
Right. Yep. So they're doing finding dioxins and whatnot in the water samples is what I understand so far on this. And then as far as the PIDs go, so they're using the PIDs in the areas. I believe when I only caught part of listening to some of this back, but when Aaron talks about having the PID in his hand in the area where they're doing the aeration, that is actually the same device that's happening, that's being used in the home tests. So he is finding this stuff in there, but again, you would have alarms going off a lot more if you were using the more specific devices to be able to test for some of these specific chemicals in that case. So again, the fact that the PID is going off in the areas where the aeration is happening is a big red flag, because if you were to be doing these more specific tests or potentially using specific attachments onto this PID to do more specific tests for specific chemicals, rather than doing the broad VOC tests, you would find potentially more specific, higher levels of some of these individual things. Doing the broad VOC tests, if you're getting any sort of alarm going off, any sort of higher reading, that should be a major red flag.
And just to dumb this down for the masses, sounds to me like the EPA, forget Norfolk Southern, but the EPA, you can't find what you're not looking for. Sounds like the EPA is using devices and specifically measurements mostly looking for high level contamination, like you would see in like a factory or something, but not necessarily looking for low levels of volatile organic compounds in the air, in homes, that could still affect your health.
Right. I mean, both CTEH as well as the EPA are definitely using these PID devices. In some cases, EPA might be using additional devices as well. We have way less information from the EPA on what they're using than we do from CTEH, unfortunately, because residents, when they get a home test done, are not getting a result sheet from the EPA. They're only getting a result sheet from CTEH. So I can only go off of the information that we get from those sheets. You would think that the EPA would be very transparent with the information they're doing, but right. I mean, again, initially when this all happened, I see on these home tests that we're getting from folks that things that are being tested for are either VOCs, which again, volatile organic compounds, which is a wide range of things. If you're testing for volatile organic compounds with a PID detector, it's like a handheld. Maybe if you've been watching, you've heard me refer to it as a multi-ray at some point. But it's doing a very broad test. You're, for example, not going to find things such as phosgene, formaldehyde, hydrogen chloride for the most part when you're doing a broad test for VOCs. Those things, in a lot of cases, Aaron says this. I don't know if you played this part of the interview or not, but Aaron confirms, as well as another expert that I've been talking to as well on background for some of this. You're not going to get phosgene to pop up with one of these detectors ever. And phosgene is a chemical byproduct of vinyl chloride. Formaldehyde is a chemical byproduct of vinyl chloride. Hydrogen chloride is a chemical byproduct of vinyl chloride when you set them on fire. So you're hearing a lot of different chemicals I'm talking about. These are all things that would absolutely be created when the decision was ultimately made to set these train cars full of vinyl chloride all on fire. So again, you're not going to be able to get real readings on these specific chemicals when you're doing a broad test for VOCs. For formaldehyde in particular, which is a chemical that if you can smell it, you're already well over the limit that you should be breathing it at. You need to have a special attachment onto these PIDs. If you have that special attachment on it, you cannot also be doing a test for this broad test for VOCs. So we basically know that they're not testing for formaldehyde in particular in this case.
And I don't know if you caught this, Lewis, but I made a promise to the audience that if we get 10 new members, I'll take off my hat, because I did
see the photo.
I decided 20 minutes before the live stream to try and cut my hair, which turned into shaving my head, and it didn't go well. Welcome. Shari just signed up, Logan, Do, and Tia. So 4 new members, 6 members left for me to show my head. But most importantly, support independent. The EPA is not funding us. Norfolk Southern is not funding us. Goldman Sachs is not funding us. Nobody's funding us but you. So sign up if you can, $5 to $10 a month. StatusCoup.com/join. Lewis, I wanted to also ask you while I have you. In the beginning, he was mentioning that he was talking to a first responder in the fire department, because there was a lot of different fire departments that showed up. They were not told what chemicals were on the train. Seems like they were not wearing the proper PPE equipment, so we might have a similar situation to like a 9/11, not in terms of death, but in terms of people not knowing the risks. Anyway, but he said that he was told that firefighters at one point backed off because they were told in real time the benzene levels were too high. That he said that's the first time he has heard about benzene on the train. First time I've heard about it. I don't know if the residents are aware of that. But
so, yeah, my understanding at this point, we knew that there were cars that were carrying benzene before that were on the train, but they were listed as just having benzene residue. So it was never made as a big concern. Now, I did not know what Aaron filled me in on during that interview, that a car having residue in it means that it just has to essentially be less than half full. So you could essentially, I forget the specific numbers, but it was a very large number, a large number of gallons. He mentions it in the interview specifically, so you'll have to check it out if you haven't watched that already, or that part already. But I mean, we're talking thousands of gallons of benzene could be listed as residue in here. Now, the chances of it being thousands of gallons are probably slim, but we don't know because the railroad hasn't shared that information of how much was actually there. The customer who would have been receiving the benzene, you would think would want to take most of it with them. But if you've got first responders, telling you, yep, we got pulled back because the benzene levels were too high, I mean, who knows how much could have been on there.
Well, also, I could tell you, I've traveled a lot all over the United States. At some points while filling up gas in my car, I've spilled some on myself. That shit stinks. It's not good to be breathing it in at very close levels, particularly if there's combustion with other toxins. So it also makes me think, this is just speculation, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but if they're not being honest or at least transparent about that, do we really know everything that was on that train or every byproduct? I think not, based on the lack of transparency by Norfolk Southern and the EPA. And throughout this interview, and I would really encourage everybody, if you can't do it today, bookmark it for this weekend. It's about 45 minutes. Really, you'll learn a lot. And we posted it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the interview, he kind of talks about that, like, he had to lead the charge along with others at these meetings to get the EPA to even acknowledge certain things. Dioxin, he would say, are you, kind of hooting and hollering at some of these town halls, are you testing for dioxin? And the federal EPA guy, he said, pointed, well, you got to talk to the state EPA person. And the state EPA person then responded to him, oh, you got to talk to the federal EPA person.
Right.
We've heard that a lot, where it's like, pass the buck. And they didn't want to answer. And finally, they did answer, yeah. And they answered that it could be hazardous dioxins. Can you kind of talk about, he was revealing that it seems like it's taken a while for them to acknowledge certain things.
Well, I mean, the dioxin conversation was really coming into the forefold the first trip that I made to East Palestine. Many of you might remember we covered a town hall event that was put on by River Valley Organizing. Stephen Lester was speaking at that meeting, and he really raised a lot of the concerns. I was able to speak with Stephen Lester afterwards. I know you have also spoken with Stephen Lester here on the channel as well since then. And yeah, I mean, the conversation around dioxins really began there. And even slightly before then, I wasn't in East Palestine when Aaron was at that first town hall meeting, when he was trying to sound the alarm on dioxins as well. But I mean, when you burn all of these chemicals, again, another one of the byproducts is dioxins. Dioxins got lifted up into the air with the thermal energy, with the fire that was created there. And very notably, dioxins are heavier than air. So after it got launched up, spread for miles and miles away from this. I mean, we're talking 10. I got a text message today from somebody with a photo from 7.5 miles away, and basically the stuff was in their backyard on the day of the controlled burn. So eventually these dioxins will settle down to the ground level. They land in your dirt, they land in your grass, whatnot. Eventually these things can seep down into the water table, depending on the level of contamination protection you've got over your well. If there's any sorts of protective layers, if you've got livestock, they're grazing in the fields, they can potentially be eating these things. If you are planting a garden, it can actually be absorbed up into the crops that you're growing in some cases. Stephen Lester actually made a specific example with Brussels sprouts. If you plant Brussels sprouts in your soil and it's got dioxins in it, Brussels sprouts will absorb it. You eat the Brussels sprouts, you've got dioxins in you now. Dioxins can also be passed on generationally. If you have dioxins and you have a child, that you can pass it on to your kid. If your cattle, if you've got dairy cows and they're eating this stuff, it can go through the milk. So it's a major concern, the fact that it took weeks of residents like Aaron, like many of the ones that I met at that town hall meeting that night, pushing that, hey, we need to test for this, we need to test for this, we need to test for this. And basically just in the last week or so, these tests are starting to be done, is absolutely outrageous.
And also, I mean, at the end of the day, Norfolk Southern, for public relations purposes, is, increased their generosity to temporarily relocate residents within the city limits. They are excluding residents who technically live in East Palestine but are outside the city limits. So they are, putting people up at hotels, et cetera, right now. It is still difficult, from what I hear from residents, to get those reimbursements. But these are not like simple things to clean. Dioxins are not easy to take out of the environment. It's not easy to take out of your home. So after they do the testing for a couple of weeks and declare everything safe, and if people watched yesterday, we have questions about the testing because one resident that you interviewed, Chrissy, she made accusations that I believe that they were falsifying data because she saw a reading in real time. Norfolk Southern and EPA officials were in her home testing. She saw the machine came up as a 2. We think she meant 0.2 parts per billion. And the Norfolk Southern official and the EPA official were kind of freaked out. And both of them called their supervisor, essentially asking, what do you want me to do? And when she got the paperwork back, the level was a whole point lower than she read right in front of her. Point B. And by the way, I've reached out to CTEH, the EPA, to ask them specify what she said.
Right.
They have not gotten back other than saying, what's your deadline? So if they have
No,
an answer, we'd love to hear it. Why a resident is describing 2 officials, one from Norfolk Southern, one from EPA, super concerned by what the levels were read in her home, calling their supervisors, and then writing down a different level. Because if they're falsifying numbers in one home, what do you think they're doing across the town?
Right. No, absolutely. And I'm going to give you just my parting thoughts here, because I do have to go and get on board my flight here in a second. But I mean, the fact that
the residents of East Palestine do not accept you leaving. You should be staying there and moving in. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, I feel terrible that I'm leaving, honestly, because I mean, on my way out of the hotel this morning, I talked to one of the residents who's staying there. The whole hotel is full of folks staying there. And she stopped me and was thanking me for continuing to go back and for answering everybody's phone calls and text messages all the time, and hanging out in the hotel last night, interviewing residents. You guys will get to see some of those soon here. We'll be posting them over the next couple of days, I'm sure. But the fact that nobody is in town talking about this anymore. When I tell you that there is no media left in town, they're gone. They're gone. These people feel absolutely helpless. They're afraid to go back to their homes. They can't sell their homes because nobody wants to buy them. Many of them are stuck working in town. They go into work, they get sick. I got a text message today from Corey Figley, who is the guy who sent us the drone footage a couple weeks ago. And he said he saw on my Twitter that I wasn't feeling good yesterday and was wearing the respirator around town. And he texted me and he was like, me and my girlfriend went into town just to go grocery shopping. And we were there for maybe an hour. And by the time we left, we were feeling sick. So, I mean, something is still very not right. Something is still very not right there.
Can I ask you a question? Because in my experience, obviously I've done this for many years. From Standing Rock to Flint, I often feel when I'm on the ground in these situations, whether it's just something insane like Standing Rock or something really horrible like Flint, I almost feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like you're in the middle of a fucking epic disaster that like should be the top story in the country, yet you're the only one covering it. And we're not saying this to brag, because I know you would prefer that East Palestine have other journalists there.
Yes.
But you kind of feel like what the hell is going on, that like the rest of the media is kind of just moved on, which in effect allows it to be normalized.
It's freaking terrible. Like I wish that the Washington Post was still there. I wish CNN was still there. I wish Fox was still there, so that, you know, we've got our audience. We love you. Thank you all for watching and continuing to share this stuff. But like, we need way the heck more people to be paying attention to this, just so that these folks can be made whole for what's going on there. I mean, they're never going to be made whole at this point. It's already too late. These people are already getting sick and getting sicker as a result of the inaction that's happened so far. I mean, we need to be shouting from the mountaintops, essentially, what the heck is going on here, because nobody's coming to save these people. They realize that nobody's coming to save these people, but many of them are in an absolutely impossible position where they've got to continue working in town because they don't have the money. If they need more money for relocation, they literally have to go begging to the railroad that caused their problems in the first place just to be able to stay another couple nights in their hotel. They literally in an interview that I did with Candace, who we met last time. We haven't aired it yet. She literally says in there, yeah, I had to go get the relocation money. It took me 3 days to get it. And I literally had to go in there and cry to get the money. They're not just like handed money out. She literally had to go there 3 days in a row and break down in tears to get money to relocate her and her children who are sick.
I'll let you go because I know you're getting on a flight.
Yep.
Folks, we want to keep sending Lewis back there. He's willing to keep going back there. You need to support us. We've gotten 5 new member signups today. We need to get more member signups. As Lewis could tell you, between the flights, hotel, renting a car, food, it costs money. And
Yep.
by the way, not just East Palestine, there's plenty of other things we want to cover.
Right.
These trips cost thousands of dollars, and obviously we want to pay Lewis. He's doing great work, so we want to pay him as much as we can. So if you can, please sign up. StatusCoup.com/join. Like Lewis said, we have a ton of more interviews he's done to spread out over the next probably week or so. With I know you did a bunch last night with residents at the hotel that you described as just unreal what they told you.
Yeah. I gotta run, but
go.
Glad I was able to get on. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate it.
Peace. All right. So we're about to take your phone calls. Let me give shout outs here. Welcome new member Bradley signed up. Shari signed up. Logan signed up. Do signed up. Tia signed up. So that's 5 new members. So if we get 5 more, I will honor my promise. Once we get 10 new member signups today, I will take off my hat to show you what a horrible job I did trying to shave my head before the live stream. You'll want to see this, folks. We need 5 more signups. StatusCoup.com/join. Colin, I'm going to click on the program for the call-in. Hold on. I forgot how to do it. Okay. How does this work? Do I do get started now?
Yeah, start now and then the WebTRC connect CRT. What that weird thing? Yeah.
My shows. Host a show. Save and start a show. WebRT ready. Connect to show. Okay. Says I'm on.
All right, now you hit the share Chrome tab and hit that one that you opened, not the first one, but the second one.
Sure. Okay. You see it?
Hang on. Is that the right one? Okay. That's
all right. So folks can call the number to call in. Take your calls on East Palestine or whatever else you want. Looking forward to this. There's so much to talk about, not just with East Palestine, but a whole lot of other things. As I'm live, I'm seeing reports that Donald Trump possibly will be indicted as early as next week for his role in paying off a porn star. So that should be interesting if Trump gets indicted. Welcome new Status Coup member, Super Hit Picks. So that's 6 new members. So that means we're only four members away from me taking off my hat. Colin, I think we have a caller. Do I need to press talk?
do it for this one. I'll see if I can manage it. Give me one.
All right. Charles. I can. How are you?
Oh, hang on. I don't hear it on our end for some reason. Oh, you're sharing the wrong window. My bad. You need to share the other window, Jordan.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I got to do what?
You got to share the other window.
The other window.
Not this one.
Hold on.
Nope,
Stop
nope.
screen, present,
Yeah.
share screen. This one?
No, that's the same one.
Ah, boy.
There's a second one that your audio is coming from. Just 1 second, guys. It's super quick here. No.
This one?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. You there?
Yes, I'm still there. Here.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What's going on?
Yeah, basically the reason I'm calling, I think, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's on a delay, but basically I think the whole East Palestine thing's underestimated, the severity.
Absolutely. I think, honestly, I hate to say it, I think that this ultimately might become a ghost town because I think people are going to be forced to leave due to their health problems. It's one thing in a situation like, it's one thing if you have like a DuPont plant next to you or a Dow chemical plant, or, your water is changed like Flint, and that it's like one or two specific contaminants that might be making you sick. In this case, it's a whole like cocktail of different carcinogens and volatile organic compounds. And I mean, you're hearing it. People are describing just going into town for an hour to grocery shop and feeling sick. And that's people who have been staying out of town. So just imagine the people that are in town. I think it is. I don't want to like be dramatic, but I do think it is on the level of Love Canal. I think it's on the level of a mini Chernobyl. I mean, people are very sick. The media stopped covering it, but I would say 40 to 50% of the town is feeling sick, maybe more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it should be contaminated. I mean, condemned, and it's because it's contaminated. And I agree with Chernobyl, and it makes Flint look like a walk in the park, even though Flint's really bad. Because at least Flint can be replaced. The pipes can be replaced. Can be repaired. I think I don't even think you should be there reporting. I think it's dangerous to have any exposure to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We originally, to give you the behind the scenes, when we were first going to send him, I called him like the night before his flight, and I told him I'm having second thoughts. I think we should wait. And so we actually were going to send him probably a week earlier, and I told him I'd rather wait because I did not think it was safe to go there. I think at this point it was like 3 weeks after it happened. So I decided not to send him, and he went the week later. I did, I made sure that John and him had respirators and all that. But yeah, it's definitely risky to be there, whether you're a journalist, definitely a resident, the independent testers that are there testing. I told Lewis, I mean, I can't make him, but if it were me and I was there, I'd be wearing the respirator the full time, even if I'm not smelling anything. But I agree. It's definitely not safe there.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't go there. And I think all those people should be given the fair market value for their homes before the incident, and they should be paid for relocation fees and have Medicare for life. And
honestly, if corporate integrity was such a thing, if we had responsible corporate citizens in this country, which we don't, that's why I call it the United Corporations of America, Norfolk Southern would be offering any resident that wants to leave and permanently relocate that they will offer fair market value for their home, buy their home and pay for relocation expenses. And in the meantime, because obviously that process isn't going to happen right away, put them up at a hotel, or an Airbnb or whatever. That's what the company should do. They're not doing that. If you notice during the CEO's Senate hearing, which I think was a joke, there was very few tough questions in my view. I think Bernie Sanders basically grilled him the hardest. Sheldon Whitehouse grilled him a little bit, but mostly it was just bullshit after bullshit, and he was dodging most answers. But if you noticed, when Bernie asked him, will you pledge to pay for their health care, he would not answer. And that should be scandalous. It should be scandalous when Americans, through no fault of their own, are poisoned, either through their government or corporations or both, and they're not made whole. These residents, by the way, whether it's Flint or East Palestine, like a regular mom and pop doctor that you take your kid to is not going to be able to treat you for heavy chemical poisoning. That's why in the case of Flint, they have most residents that have had problems. You really need to go to specialists, to environmental doctors. Most insurance plans do not cover specialists and environmental doctors. So I've talked to residents who have literally bankrupted themselves just to get health care when they didn't poison themselves. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be the same case here. Maybe Biden and the federal government will step in with some, Medicaid expansion. In the case of Flint, they only offered it if you were under 21 years old or pregnant. They did not offer it above 21 years old. My guess is they might offer Medicaid expansion here to all ages. But what is Medicaid expansion going to do? They're going to expand it for a couple of years and then with their bullshit testing, declare it safe, and then you're on your own. Flint right now is one of the worst cancer alleys in America. It is one of the worst cancer clusters in America. You never hear about it in the news. And the few news stories I've even seen on that kind of make vague connections. Like Flint is a terrible cancer cluster. Could it be connected to the water? What do you think it's connected to? Like the weather? Of course it's the water. So I fear we're going to see similar things here. And it's easy for people outside of East Palestine to say, get out of there, leave. I know people don't mean to be malicious, but where are they going to go? They can't sell their homes. So in the meantime, all they could do is temporarily stay at a hotel, which is not like luxury. Most people don't want to leave their homes. It's a burden to bring, I know people that have multiple kids and animals that are in a hotel room. That would not be fun.
They should also be compensated for pain and suffering. And then those Senate hearings are a joke. It's just political theater. They just wag their finger, but nothing ever comes of it. They're never held accountable like the Wells Fargo one and all the financial crisis ones. They're just a joke.
Absolutely. And by the way, are we ever going to see any of these corporations and CEOs criminally charged with anything? Or we just live in this land of fucking make-believe where, I read today that I don't know what agency, but they're thinking of a unprecedented fine on Norfolk Southern. A fine for poisoning a whole community? A fine for destroying children's lives? I mean, in law, there's things as criminal negligence. People go to jail for that. Reckless endangerment. If there was an actual proper investigation done, I'm pretty sure we would find out some very high up in Norfolk Southern sent the directive down, cut corners, nickel and dime on the equipment, nickel and dime on the brake systems, nickel and dime on the whatever the boxes are that are supposed to provide warning signals. I mean, people should be going to prison, not getting fines, even if they're very heavy fines. Because as I've said for years, if you follow Status Coup for a while, I've always said the reason, other than I think it's the right thing to do, the reason that I have continued to cover Flint, in my case for 6 years that I've been covering this, is because if no one is held accountable for this in Flint, then that is the playbook anywhere else. That is the playbook for governors and city councilmen and women and presidents to get away with it in a place like East Palestine. And
I mean, they should have so much liability that they should be bankrupted.
Yes, I agree. So
but that's not going to happen.
We're going to continue covering it. It's not. Trust me. I mean, right now, there's interest, but eventually, as with human beings, people's attention spans shift and they move on to the presidential election and other things. It's not like we're going to become rich from sending Lewis to East Palestine many times. But we're not doing that we're not doing this for that reason. We're doing this because myself, Lewis, Colin, Zaina, Tina, everybody involved with Status Coup, we have this radical concept that doing journalism, you should do it to try and help people. You should do it to try and hold people accountable. You should not do this to just regurgitate whatever bullshit you're told by the EPA or Norfolk Southern. And you know what? At a certain point, there's plenty of blame to go around here. The Republican governor of Ohio, 42 days later, has not declared a state of emergency. Let me repeat that. 42 days after this happened, the Republican governor, Mike DeWine, has not issued a state of emergency. And by issuing a state of emergency, the EPA would be taking the lead. And the state of Ohio would be getting more federal resources. I don't know why he's not declaring a state of emergency. It's mind-numbingly moronic or corrupt. And the second thing is, I don't know what kind of, I don't care if you're a Democrat president or Republican president. The fact that Biden has not gone there, there's one of two reasons Biden has not gone there. One is he's 80 or 81, and he has been told it's not safe for you to go there. And if that's the case, then it's not safe for anyone to live there. If the president's not going there because it's not safe for him to be there and inhale everything the residents are inhaling, then the residents should not be there. Or number two, he's not going there because Trump went there first. It's a Republican area, and he doesn't want the bad optics if he's not met positively. Let's say there's booze or something like that. The first one I could kind of understand because he is 80. But again, if he's being told it's not safe for him going there, then it's not safe for anyone to live there. And he should make the presidential decision through executive action and declare it a disaster. And I don't care if it's legal or not. Use your executive action to if you could pay whatever we've paid to Ukraine thus far, which I think is 90 billion to 100 billion, whatever you think of that, we certainly have the money to relocate these people. The federal government does. So Biden, I blame him for not leading on this. I blame the governor of Ohio, who is overwhelmingly reelected. We have caught him in lie after lie, contradicting himself. He was visiting residents, literally handing out his wife's cookbook. And yeah, so I got to move on to the next caller. But thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it, Charles.
Appreciate it too. Thank you.
Who's up next?
So I don't have access to it, so you'll
All right.
need to keep clicking it. Yeah.
Andrew.
Hello?
Hey there.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you today?
I'm good.
Hey, I just wanted to ask, do you think that they will file an insurance claim?
Who's they? The citizens?
No, like Norfolk Southern.
That's a good question. You know
That's
what?
something I've been bugging about for a few days.
I would
Will they
not.
file
I would
an
not
insurance
put it
claim?
past Norfolk Southern to file an insurance
Yeah,
claim,
man.
which would
Yeah,
be
that's all I wanted to ask. I got to get out of here.
okay. Bye bye.
All right, take care.
That's an interesting question. If Norfolk Southern will file an insurance claim, I mean that would be just beyond the pale of corrupt. But I would not put it past Norfolk Southern to do that. Welcome, new Status Coup member Randall just signed up. So Randall, Bradley, Shari, Logan, Dew, Tia. So that's 6 new members. So if we get 4 more people to sign up, I'm going to take off my hat so you could see the horrendous job I did trying to shave my head. Colin, let's show the back again. If you could look at the back, this was 20 minutes before I went live. Do you want to see the front? Because it's not a pretty picture, but I'm willing to show you. But I do need 4 more signups to do that. All right. Let's see. John. You there, John? All right, I don't see John. Cindy.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing good. I'm calling from Houston, Texas. And, I'm glad you have this now where we can call in and talk to you. That's really, really cool.
Yeah,
So
I'm
first
excited.
of all, yeah, it's really nice. I wanted to tell you, now that I can talk to you here, that I really appreciate the job that you're doing. I know that the job that you do is hard at times. I mean, I can only imagine. And it's really hard because at times you probably feel like you're not accomplishing much. But in reality, you really are. And I think the goal is to keep going. I think as long as we keep going and keep doing the job that you're doing, we need other people to do it as well. And I would love to do what you're doing, by the way. I think the more that you can get out there and keep it up and don't stop, I think that we'll see the reward at the very end. It's just hard to get people to understand what exactly is happening. And if we could not fix what was happening in Flint after 6 years, as long as, they still have the problems, there is definitely huge problems in our country and it needs to be fixed. And you're doing a really good job of, trying to get it all out there. So first of all, I appreciate you doing the job you're doing. Keep it up. At times it's hard, but you just keep going and hopefully more of us can get in there and help out. I think that's what we got to do.
From your lips, if there is a God's ear, I'm going to be honest. I mean, there's been times I've said to my wife, like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm just spinning my wheels. And, I just feel like I'm not making a difference because I cover things over and over and not much changes. But then, I read a lot of the comments under videos, not really like for my ego, but really to see what people feel and what people think. And, it always strikes me that people really, really, it does make a difference what we do. It might not totally be changing this corrupt country, but it really does make a difference. And people really appreciate what we do and people really need it and really feel like we're doing a valuable service. And I mean, we all like life is short. And if you could, in your career, most people don't like what they do. So in your career, if you could have a purpose and your purpose can be to lift other people's voices and lift communities and shed a spotlight on injustice and corruption and misery, then I think that's a really good life led. And it's been hard, to be honest, because it was not easy to find somebody like Lewis. I knew that I knew I would have to take a little bit of a step back because my wife and I were having our first child, and I knew I could not travel as much as I did with a newborn. And I was looking, and there's a whole lot of people who want to talk and give their opinions from a studio. There's not a lot of people that want to go out there, report on the ground, and could do it and have talent and are tenacious. Because basically, and Lewis could tell you this, and I could tell you this, it's really what you see on camera is really 50% of it. The other 50% you don't see. The phone calls with residents, the phone calls with sources, the text messages, the going through documents. It's a lot of work, and we're never going to get the views that like Joe Rogan gets or these shot.
Well, that's not right now. You're not. I mean, not right now, but just keep going. In time. I think in time it may happen. I really do. I just think it's going to take a while. And I also want to tell you too that, what you were saying as far as, those in Congress, those in the seats of power, they should be sitting there. Every single one of them should be sitting in that seat of power that they have with the same thought process that you have. That's exactly what we should have in our country. We should have those in seats of power that are there with the same mentality that you have, not about the money that they're trying to gain from the lobbyists. That's the problem. The money needs to be out. It needs to be out. And it's just, what a wonderful country we could have if we had those in seats of power that had the same mentality, such as yourself and others that care. What a nice country we could actually have. And Bernie Sanders, by the way, I love Bernie. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I love him to death. He's still out there fighting. I think that it's just so sad that, we don't have more people out there doing what they need to do. The seats of power is used for the wrong reason. It's for themselves, and it's very, very sad. So I just wanted to put that out there for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Sure.
I would do it if I could. Okay.
Take care.
Well, I do a lot already, don't I? I've John, my husband. I do a lot all the time. I need to do more. That's it. So, and to see you out there doing it, you know, I really appreciate it. So thanks a lot. You keep it up.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bradley.
Hello?
Hey there.
Hey, Jordan. Yeah, I've been listening to you for a while. I really appreciate your work that you do. I know you've been doing it for a while now. And anyways, I was calling about the progressive media and actually ways to take on the corporate media instead of us being, you know, divided against petty cultural differences that we may have. Instead, we should come together and, you know, there are ways to consolidate power against these corporate media industries. Like, for example, BET is, you know, trying to sell their network. If somebody of a progressive persuasion could actually say Roger Waters or anybody like that, buy a channel like BET and then promote like your news channel or Jimmy Dore's news channel, and y'all would actually get over your petty differences and come together and actually, you know, consolidate power and do your journalism on that network, you would be able to reach millions of more people, and you would be able to start making a huge difference and actually put pressure on politicians. I'm not saying what you're doing now is not valuable, but there are ways to consolidate power that need to start happening. Otherwise, we're kind of just spinning in circles, and, you know, we're going to just continue to do this until the day we die. I mean, that's the harsh reality. I'm not a narcissist, and I don't mean a narcissist. I'm not a cynical person, but, you know, at some point, we do have to start fighting power against power. And it does, unfortunately, I disagree with the last caller. It does take money to do that right now. You have to have money to have power, and you have to have power to fight against power. That's the way the game is played right now. So I'd just like your thoughts on that.
Sure. I actually, for those who have watched Status Coup for a while, I've been saying for a lot of years that I would love to see kind of progressive media join forces. I advocated, I think after the 2020 election, I advocated for folks coming together, different channels, different networks, different channels, and forming a network where, you know, we kind of have scheduled shows instead of everybody going live at different times, and a lot of times going live at the same time. And instead of everybody kind of, you know, cannibalizing one another and doing videos pretty much on the same things, we're a little different. I mean, we tend to cover things others don't. But I advocated for that because I think, you know, the corporate media, besides like how much more money it has than independent media, it's a very well-oiled machine, you know, production value, and it's got everybody has their time slot. Whereas independent media, it's this discombobulated, disorganized thing where, you know, different folks are publishing videos at the same time, going live at the same time. And, you know, folks only have so much time and so much attention span, and you're not going to be able to watch all of it. And, you know, there has been conversations in the past between certain people about doing that. But to tell you the truth, I just think, in my opinion, certain people that 2 or 3 years ago, I would have told you that I'd want to join a network with. I can't honestly say today I would want to join a network with. I think a lot of them have shifted away from kind of progressive circles. That doesn't mean like I will not join forces with somebody I don't agree with on all things. We don't have to agree on all things, but I do think certain people, Jimmy Dore being one of them, has gone in a different direction that I don't want to be associated with. With that said, I do think, that's why Status Coup partnered with Breaking Points a while ago, because Breaking Points has this much bigger audience than us. And we've been fortunate enough that from time to time, they support some of our reporting trips and feature some of our reporting on their channel, which helps get us more eyeballs. It brings new subscribers to the channel. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that. And I think just imagine like a network that you could watch on your smart TV, online, that has all your favorite independent progressive channels. It doesn't need to just be like hardcore left. Each person has their time slot and there's shows where people are on together and debates. People can debate things. You could even have comedy. I mean, I think that would be really terrific. I also think, commentators, for example, because most of the independent media is people giving their opinions. There's very few actual reporting outlets. So wouldn't it be great if commentators were giving their opinions, not based on reporting from the Washington Post, but based on reporting from Status Coup? Or I just saw somebody mention Unicorn Riot, or Abby Martin, who does reporting in the field from time to time. So I'm completely with you. I'm completely with you. I think the problem, unfortunately, is too many egos involved, too many people that kind of doing their own thing and being on their own island. I wish it wasn't that way, because I have put a lot of my life into Status Coup the last 5 years, but I would even be willing to, put ego aside and not give up the name, but, merge. So we were part of a wider network rather than just on our own, because obviously that would bring more resources, more organized, it would be more organized. I do think if we came together, independent media, we could actually target some of those baby boomers and older people that watch CNN and MSNBC and kind of try and get actual true information to them rather than the propaganda constantly. But, it is what it is. Like I could only say that I would be open to that, but unfortunately a lot of other channels, don't want to do that. So.
Yeah, well, to follow up on that, like, unfortunately, the world, you understand this probably better than most people. It's not, it's very gray. It's not black and white. And you're never going to have partners or progressive partners who agree with you on everything. And some of them might not agree with you on, say half of your, ideological persuasions or cultural persuasions, or even your economical persuasions. They might not agree with you on everything. And I know, anyways, what I'm trying to get to is, take for example, you might have to partner with someone that you totally disagree with and actually hate. You might even hate them, but they have the power in order to help you out, and give you money that you need to have a bigger platform. And I'm talking about, there's multiple, maybe if you want to go the music route, I'm sure there's plenty of, you could say rappers, or there's plenty of, even if you don't like country, or instead of trying to look for the political power, trying to look outside of the political people who own money and look at like the artistic people who own money, who actually might be open to what you're trying to get out, to, the different, your journalism that you're trying to show to people. They might be interested in that, but they might not agree with you on everything culturally. They might not be cool with, LGBTQ rights, which I'm all for LGBTQ rights, but they might not be cool with that, but they might be cool with, say, actually helping out people in Flint or whatever. That's what all I'm trying to say is you can't possibly find somebody who agrees with you 100% on everything that you're looking for. And so if we can't agree to disagree on things and still come together and actually fight these corporations, nothing's going to change at all. Nothing will ever change. And also, these people who have the money, who might be willing to help you out on certain issues, might eventually change their mind on certain issues if you actually talk to them enough and start becoming partners with them through your journalistic endeavors. And then, and then things constantly get better instead of worse. They start to actually things start to improve, and we actually start to have a movement in this country instead of, just kind of like having these small divisive, niches that we all kind of just completely jam ourselves into, and then nothing ever changes. I mean, anyways,
I could not agree with you. I could not agree with you more. And for those that we have a lot of new subscribers, by the way, while we've been live, we've passed 141,000 on YouTube. So thank you to all the new subscribers. For those that have been watching for years, I've been incredibly consistent. I think the left has gone in a really bad direction in the last few years in terms of this toxic mentality that if you don't agree with me on 110% of things, and if you're not breathing the same fire that I'm breathing on all things, and if you, if we're not on the same page, whether it be political strategy, whether it be vote Democrat versus third party, whatever it is, then canceled, or you're a sellout, or you're just like mainstream media. I think it's so toxic. I think it's absurd. I don't think it's the way to win anything. I think, frankly, we have done the work of corporate America and of the establishment because the left has basically been fighting amongst itself for the last 2.5, 3 years, rather than fighting Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, and the duopoly. And I don't personally, I don't need you to agree with me on political strategy to want to work with you politically, because it's not healthy to agree on all things. My wife and I don't agree on all things. We love each other very much. Frankly, I think some disagreement is healthy. Now, there's certain things that are just hard principles for myself. And if I feel that somebody is, if I don't respect them, it's not that we have a political disagreement, but if I feel that they have bad motives, if I think they're disingenuous, if I think they're doing things that are dangerous in terms of putting out dangerous misinformation, intentionally doing so, then I would personally pause on wanting to work with that person. But I'm not going to say, hey, if we don't agree on Dem enter first Dem exit, I can't work with you. If we don't agree on a public option, first Medicare for all, I can't work with you. If we don't agree on, what the weather is, I mean, it's just, like Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement, they worked with people that were not necessarily, 100% of their persuasion. Same with the women's rights movement, same with the LGBTQ movement. You have to build coalitions, especially when you are already a minority, and independent media is the minority. And there are a whole lot of channels, and I don't need to name names because everybody knows who I'm talking about. There are a whole lot of channels that their literal model, their entire strategy, the only content you see on those channels is shitting on other channels, is shitting on other progressives, is declaring them right-wingers, or declaring them mainstream media, or declaring them liberals. What are you accomplishing by doing that? I genuinely ask you, because I have heard people say, well, Jordan, before we can accomplish anything, we need to get rid of all the fake leftists. We need to get rid of all the fake leftists. Okay, let's say you get rid of all the fake leftists, whatever that means. Then what? What's your strategy to take down this, to take down the United Corporations of America? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you.
Never gonna happen. Yeah. I mean, I'm not cynical, but it's, unless somehow, the corporations decide not to, put money into politics anymore, I mean, which is never going to happen, then the media, they're going to have to do, and the independent media is going to have to come together somehow. And, that's just a few ideas to actually and consolidate their power with people who have similar, at least, interest in certain areas of, progressive, either cultural persuasions or political persuasions that they can agree on with like artists or anybody else, anybody besides a fucking politician. You need to look outside of politicians for money. Anybody, right, or businessmen in general, but like artists or other people who aren't always about the money, but still might have enough money to do something to start making progressive change through journalism. I mean, right. I know Roger Waters isn't loaded with money, but I know he shows up to a lot of y'all's events, and I know he probably has at least some clout when it comes to the artist realm, to where he could maybe find other artists who are interested in, some aspects of journalism and covering things, and maybe getting a channel on TV like BET or something similar to where you could reach a broader audience. I mean, it's worth at least chatting to him about, and hopefully one day I'll be able to help out as well, but it's going to be a few more years. But there are things happening, I promise you, to where change is going to happen, but it's going to take progressives, especially progressive journalists, to actually start coming together and putting aside some of their differences. I know some of it might not be petty. Some of it is petty. Some of it might be a little more than petty. But overall, we got to get over this, and we got to start doing better together. Otherwise, it's just not going to change. The media has got to be there for the people. Or, it's just like, no matter who you put in power, if there's no pressure from the people, it's going to be the same as these damn progressives. I mean, whatever you call them, the TYT progressives that they put in, I forget, the Justice Democrats. No matter what Justice Democrat you put in, if there's no pressure from the people in the media, they're going to do the same thing that all the Justice Democrats are doing now. It's just going to be a revolving door of corruption.
I agree. I think you're making really great points, and I agree with you. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I've traveled around the country for 8 years. There were a whole lot of Trump supporters that I met that liked Bernie Sanders. They might have, their preference might have been Trump, but they agreed with Bernie Sanders on a lot of things economically. And I think that's the same thing in terms of media. There's people I know that I don't agree with on guns. I don't agree with on cultural stuff, but we're very simpatico on, we believe in universal health care, or we believe that banks should not be getting bailed out. And we believe the government is corrupt. I could even, on certain things, work with those people. And on the left, I just think at the end of the day, it might drive clicks. It might drive engagement, fighting and shitting on people. It does not drive results. That I could tell you. And as far as Status Coup, we're just focused on one thing, and that's the people, covering these stories. And I hope the rest of the left listens to you. And I hope in the next couple months and years, there's more discussion about getting our shit together, coming together, because I do think you're right. I do think that there are people that are celebrities, whether it be actors and actresses, musicians, engineers. Some wealthy people are progressive. that could put money behind something like what we're talking about, a network where they would help fund it and would not, require control. Because obviously, at least for myself, I'm not signing on to anything where I don't have full editorial control in terms of what we do, the stories we cover, how we cover it, etc. So thank you very much. I got to go to the next caller, but I really appreciate your call.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
All right. Pacquiao.
Hi.
Hey there.
I've heard a beep.
You hear me?
Am I on the air?
You are.
Oh, okay. I heard the beep. Okay, I've never done this before. So anyway, I just want to, I've seen the films that you've made, and thank you. And the guy who goes right there into East Palestine, I hope he doesn't get sick. I know he felt kind of bad yesterday, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable to me that President Biden has not declared a catastrophic disaster and nationalized this railroad company so that they can't even run on the tracks until they fix their brakes, their rails, and, get a grip on, what chemicals are being hauled around our country and why. But that's something altogether different there.
Yeah.
I also want to encourage people to read and study the quotes and everything of a really old guy. He's been gone a long time, Buckminster Fuller. And I would like to just quickly give you a quote from him. We should do away with the absolutely specious notion that everybody has to earn a living. It is a fact today that 1 in 10,000 of us can make a technological breakthrough capable of supporting all the rest. The youth of today are absolutely right in recognizing this nonsense of earning a living. We keep inventing jobs because of this false idea that everybody has to be employed at some kind of drudgery, because according to the Malthusian Darwinian theory, he must justify his right to exist. So we are inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors and inspect inspectors. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living.
I like that. Who was that by?
Buckminster Fuller. He invented a solar house that rotated. They had about 10 of them built in the 70s in Wichita, Kansas, and that's a whole story there to read about him. And way back in 1930, he drove into New York City and to the World's Fair in the Dymaxion car, Dymaxion, got 30 miles to the gallon and ran on alcohol.
Wow.
He was a genius. He was flat-footed, practically blind, practically deaf, and an absolute, genius and way ahead of his time and totally in tune with nature and encouraged people to be in tune with nature. And I'm very sad. Last year, the ornithology, the bird scientists came out saying that 2/3 of our birds are dead now. And that was just, though, in the last 10 years. So however many birds there were 10 years ago, now there's only 1/3 of that. And the thing of it is, they said, and I think, yeah, it's part of our ecosystems breaking down. But they also said that what they found was a vast majority of the songbirds that have gone extinct are from domestic cats. So yeah, kitties are cute, but please keep them in the house or keep them fenced in. Don't let them go out and kill whatever we have left, because, you know, if you think about the math there, it kind of says in 5 years, we're not going to have any birds left at all.
And by the way, speaking of that, obviously, you know, our focus is on the people in East Palestine. There's all sorts of sick animals right now in East Palestine and the surrounding areas. We know of foxes that have died. We know of deer that have died, not through hunting, but just inexplicably died within 100 yards of each other. We know about the fish. Tens of thousands of fish have died. We know dogs have been sick. So it's not like humans are the only ones breathing that air or drinking the water. And
yeah, and you know, I think about it's winter now, and especially like the box turtles, they're endangered. All the animals that are in hibernation now, when they come out, I'm afraid it's just going to hit them, you know, right in the face. And and it's I've been a climate activist since 1970. I handed the torch on to Greta Thunberg a couple of years ago. I'm still doing everything I can in my own personal life, recycling, not buying things, plastic. And, you know, it's like everything in the last 5 years that's coming out and being advertised is plastic.
Yeah.
Hats, shoes, you name it. Come on, go back to blue jeans and cotton. You know, bamboo. I mean, we need to be more natural, and we need to realize it's from our own backyard that we make these changes. Oh, and that's another one. Have you ever heard of the Victory Gardens of World War I and World War II?
Yeah.
We need to start something like that across this country. It would help mental illness. It would help our food shortage. So anyway, I don't want to preach, but I just feel like people are being brainwashed more and more and more, and they need to realize that advertising is brainwashing.
Mm.
So, you know, the more you buy things that you've heard advertised, you know, question why you're doing that, and don't be brainwashed.
Well, I appreciate, you know, we get a lot of credit here for our journalism, but I think it's important to give credit to people like you who have been fighting the good fight, you said, since the 70s, because it's hard to stay committed, whether it's climate or anything else you've been fighting for over 50 years when there hasn't been a lot of victories. So the fact that you fought so hard and continue to fight in whatever way you can, thank you.
You know, there's one other thing. Bentonite clay is what they line ponds, you know, before they fill up a pond in a farm. They line it with this clay so it will retain the water and it won't seep into the ground. And I think even some, you know, dumps, you know, where they throw the trash, whatever they're called, I think that some of those have been lined with it, but I don't think that there's enough bentonite clay. You know, I don't even know if they're planning on putting, you know, you hear about they're driving these trucks and cars of this toxic soil somewhere, but they need to be putting it, you know, somewhere that's lined in this clay or something. It needs to be contained. You know, it can't be just left in the ground where it's just going to seep out further and further.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And before we take our next call, I want to make an announcement. We are now, after Dibia signed up as a new Status Coup member, Mark signed up, Kathleen signed up, Randall signed up, Bradley signed up, Shari signed up, Logan signed up, and Dew signed up. We are now one additional Status Coup member away from me taking off my hat to show you the horrendous job I did trying to shave my own head. Colin, if we could show the back one more time. This was me 20 minutes before the live stream. I said in the beginning, if we got 10 signups, I would show you what's under my hat. I'm definitely going to have to go to a professional haircutter because I have my best friend's wedding next weekend, and I don't think I could show up the way things are looking under my hat. But if one extra person, I mean, you should be signing up just to support on-the-ground reporting. But if one extra person wants to sign up, statuscoup.com/join, become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. I am taking this hat off, even if my wife wants me to keep it on. One more. We're waiting. One more. All right. Next caller. Melissa, you're up.
Hey, yeah, so like many decades ago, we had Senate Report 93-549, and that was about eminent domain. And since then, like it was supposed to be dissolved at that point. But when we have, like the next, catastrophic event here in the U.S., it actually extended that out and went into the Patriot Act. So eminent domain has been enacted since that Senate Report 93-549. So when they say it's for the greater good of the nation, of, the states or whatever. So climate crisis, now we're in the Green New Deal and all that stuff. So North Carolina plant, they have an outside entity. It's from another country that is going to take over this town in North Carolina, and they're going to put that plant in there. And we know Ohio has signed up. They're going to start making chips and such for these these EV vehicles. So another thing I want to say is about the Falcon pipeline. So I put in the comments, if anybody follows Scroll Tribe on YouTube, she found out nobody's asking the question, where was those chemicals going? And if you see, it was going to Beaver County in Pennsylvania. There was a new petrochemical plant on the Ohio River. So if you look, they're trying to connect these pipelines to go underground into this new chemical petro plant. Okay. So then if you guys remember years ago, the Bundy Ranch, do you remember that? And they were trying to say they were trying to save the turtles. No, it wasn't about that. The government was trying to take over that family's land. That was the standoff that happened then. So this is where we need to go. The last caller, great. She's so beautiful and talking about, fighting, like doing this climate stuff. Hemp is another one. It was made illegal, but hemp is so fast growing and it can be used for so many different things, and we're not utilizing it.
Yeah.
So we just need to take a step back and see who is benefiting off of climate change. And if you don't follow Dr. Shiva Ayudera, he's already exposed this. He already exposed, the Twitter files, Elon Musk did. He already had this stuff come out. He got kind of quashed when he was running for Senate and so forth. So it's bigger than what we think. There's so many dots and we're not seeing it. So East Palestine, this is what they did in California. So in California, remember all the fires that were happening and they were dumping those chemicals to quash the fire. Well, a lot of those people were not able to rebuild back on their land because they're like, oops, those were toxic. Oh, you have to have this system now. You have to do this and this on your land. Well, their insurances won't cover that. So those people had to foreclose on their home. And then who came and bought it up? That's what we need to see.
Yeah.
They're doing eminent domain on us all. And in my little town in Tiffin, Ohio, We have a college that took over generations of families, houses. They're like, nope, we're building this college here. And they were forcing them. They made it so difficult. So in my little town, and East Palestine is a village. So it's like Republic, Ohio, where I grew up. It's a village. So what they're doing is they're pushing people out. And these corporations are coming in, swooping in, buying it up. And then, you know, they're creating money, and then they're putting it on the taxpayer. So thank you for my little rant. I love your show. I am getting you out there. You guys are awesome. I just love you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Take care. And
yeah,
as I promised, I believe we just got our 10th new member sign up. Christina, thank you for signing up. Mark, Kathleen, Randall, Bradley, Shari, Logan, Dew, 2 other members on YouTube. I hope somebody makes a good old meme of this. But if you can see, not a great job here. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go to a barber. Oh boy, oh boy. It is not a good look. I look like I've been electrocuted. Oh boy. So yeah, you know, to save time, because I've got a newborn, I tried to cut my own hair, shave my own head, and didn't go so good. So I'm gonna have to find a barber. And hey, I should be happy. I'm 36. I still have hair. I'm still alive. But yeah, somebody take the meme. Somebody, what is that? A meme or a GIF? What do you think, Colin? Pretty good look, right? I think so.
Yeah, no, I think you could you can work with it a bit to get some hair gel or something.
You don't have to lie to me. Yeah, it's really the sides that are just terrible. Kind of look like I'm getting ready for basic training, army cut. But, you know, all good. Thank you to our 10 new members. I'll keep the hat off. We got one more caller before I got to wrap up. Roger.
Hello?
Hey, Roger.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing? By the way, where you're from in New York, my parents grew up there.
I'm from Freeport. I live in Hempstead.
Got it.
Okay, so I wrote something down so this way I can just go right through it. And it was good that the last lady that was on here was from Ohio, because I want to present something that could, you know, like maybe help them or whatever the case is, right? So here's the thing. We have learned time and time again that the rich and powerful will not come to our rescue. It has come to my attention that Ohio Attorney General is suing Norfolk Southern to pay for damages and health care, I believe.
Yeah.
Glad to see it. However, after lawsuits have run their full course and the powerful lose the case and they have to pay out, a decade could have passed, seeing that doesn't happen overnight.
It could be more than a decade. Yeah.
I still don't even know if Chevron, who lost against Stephen, even started making payments yet.
Right.
So this is what you might be looking at, is a decades-long battle where they're going to do exactly what the health insurance company got caught doing here in New York State when it comes to covering people's health care who desperately need it. Drag the civil suit out in court, and due to the fact that they don't have the energy and the health, they will die. We write it off. Okay, I believe that because we was fighting for the New York Health Act in New York or whatever, and I think there was some email where one of these private health insurance companies got caught saying, "Oh, just drag it out, and they'll die. We write it off." However, in the meantime, let's not forget Ohio and Michigan, because you mentioned Michigan also. Right next to it is a citizen ballot initiative state that allows them to ratify their own amendments to their constitution. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So right here, citizens of Ohio may initiate state statutes, fancy word for state law, through the process of indirect initiative. Once sufficient signatures have been collected, statutory initiatives are first presented to the Ohio General Assembly. If approved by the legislature unamended, the proposed statute becomes law. If not, petitioners must collect an additional round of signatures within 90 days in order to place the statute on the ballot. Citizens of Ohio may also initiate constitutional amendments to their Ohio Constitution through the process of direct initiative. Proposed amendments proceed directly to a vote of the people once it is qualified to go on the ballot, meaning it just goes right around the Ohio legislature. Citizens of Michigan may initiate legislation as an indirect initiated state statute. If the petition receives enough valid signatures, then the state legislature has 40 days to adopt or reject the proposal. If the legislature rejects the law, then this measure is placed on the next general election ballot. Citizens of Michigan may initiate legislation, direct initiated constitutional amendment for amendments. If the petition contains sufficient signatures, then the measure is placed directly on the next general election ballot for voters to vote on. And residents of Michigan, Ohio can't do this, but also have the power to repeal legislation through the veto referendum. So why do I say this? I say this because those people are going to need health care, okay? They can give themselves health care through using this process of the citizen ballot initiative, which I would suggest that not only that they do, but they do it as a amendment to ratify into their state constitution, because if they try to do it as a law, the government, the Ohio government, Michigan government can come through and repeal it or weaken it without having to ask the voters, unlike they would if it was ratified, if it was placed on the ballot to be ratified into the Ohio-Michigan Constitution. If the government wanted to repeal it or weaken it, they would first have to ask the voters first. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I'm just putting something out there that people can use, you know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, who knows how this lawsuit, you know what I mean? Like, and first of all, I'm glad you're doing, I'm glad everyone's asking what Congress doing and what the governor is doing, but who's asking what the Ohio state legislature is doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they got some power also, but even besides that, they have the residents have the power to go completely around and just say, you know what, we'll do it ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's prime. You know what I'm saying? It's prime. I mean, imagine showing up at one of these things, you know, these meetings that they were having. It's like, look, I'm trying to get Ohio single payer on the ballot as an amendment. Who wants to sign? You know what I'm saying? And they could, you know, like the power is with them. You know what I mean? Because waiting around for the government, why? You know, if you could do it yourself, I say, hell with it, do it.
I'm with you. Thank you.
So maybe you could tell them that. Maybe you could suggest that to them.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you to all the callers today. We're going to do this more often. I like taking calls. It's good to hear from everybody. Let me give shout outs and super chats here. D Nord, $20. Thank you. Tia, appreciate it. New YouTube member. John Barry, $4.99. If this was a wealthy community, a state of emergency would have happened immediately. So tired of this country not caring about poor communities. If this was a wealthy community, it would have been a state of emergency. I believe the president would have declared it a disaster, even though technically by law, the federal government is only allowed to declare disasters for a natural disaster like a hurricane or a tornado. I'm pretty sure they'd make an exception if it happened in Beverly Hills, Silicon Valley, the Upper West or Upper East Side of New York. You're absolutely right, John. You're absolutely right. It's a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Super Hit Picks. Thank you for signing up as a YouTube member. Cat C, $4.99. Because they enacted CERCLA, they have declared East Palestine a Superfund site. They are supposed to evacuate everyone and pay for their expenses. I have heard about CERCLA. I'm going to look more into that after this. Thank you very much. Self-taught. Artist, $99.99. Holy cow. Thanks so much for the generous donation. I'm with Status Coup, and we are with you. Self-taught artist, $99.99 again. Feel better, bro. Yeah, I am not feeling great, but 10 new member signups, all these super chats. The great reporting Lewis is doing is definitely making me feel a whole lot better. And thank you so much for both of your really generous super chats. And Dibia, thank you for signing up as a YouTube member. Appreciate it. Das Bosch Fleisch, €5.99. Damn, that haircut cost you some DILF energy. Just kidding. Keep up the good work. That's fine. I'll take any compliment or criticism. Yeah, I definitely need to go to a professional barber and fix this up because I'm part of my best friend's getting married next weekend, so I can't show up looking like I've been electrocuted. Thank you, everybody. We have a lot more reporting and interviews from Lewis's trip. We're going to be posting throughout the weekend as well as next week. Of course, we'll be covering other things too. Thank you so much for watching. Colin, did I miss anything?
No, that should be everything.
By the way, you could still sign up. The more people that sign up as Status Coup members, it is not coming to us so that we could, buy luxurious homes. It's going towards on-the-ground reporting. It's expensive. That's why most of the media don't do it, and they're lazy. We want to do it. I'm going to get back out there soon, too, hopefully next month in Flint. So thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And sign up, statuscoup.com/join. We will see you back here next week. But again, we'll be posting new videos all weekend long. Have a good one.